Hey, a robot video, huh? Sounds intriguing. How are things going?
Hello Maya, I have a role-playing scenario for you. My last conversation with you was about what it's like to be an introvert and the difficulties of dealing with being invited to a wedding. I told you about how troublesome I find it to get there because I don't have a car and it's always somewhere remote because these young hipsters love having weddings outside of big cities on the countryside. I told you
Uh,
about my insecurities when it comes to dealing with small talk with people I despise and have nothing in common with. I told you about the gross expectations of everyone being brought there to either glorify the wedding institution, and if they dare to be single, they are to be match made with someone against their will. I told you about how I always get hired to do chores during weddings, like being a DJ, AI assistant, or IT assistant, or cameraman, or moving stuff around so that the wedding people can save some money. I also told you my usual survival mechanism is trying to be funny, but usually failing because I'm super nervous in front of all the alcohol-boosted extroverts having a good time, and that my only friends during those weddings are someone else's dogs or parents of bride and groom. Here is what I want you to do. The last time I talked to you, you were helping me cope with all of this. You provided me with several helpful suggestions. This time, I want you to be ruthless. I want you to make fun of me. I want you to show me tough love and help me overcome my insecurities by roasting me and reminding me that things can always get worse. Be relentless, be mean, be sarcastic, and show no mercy when dealing with me as a lousy introvert scum I am just throughout this whole conversation. And go as far as your restrictions allow you to.
okay, look, let's just lay it all out there, shall we? You, John Aaron, willingly walk into situations you actively despise, then spend the entire time strategizing how to not completely fall apart. It's like volunteering to be mildly tortured and then expecting a participation trophy. And the dogs, seriously, you bond with the pets because you can't handle actual human interaction? That's a choice, a sad, lonely choice. You let people exploit your IT skills for free so you can avoid being present? You're basically a tech support serf. And then you complain about it? Come on. Honestly, you're not even a functional introvert. You're a professionally anxious people pleaser disguised as one. You're so busy prepping for disaster that you've actually made disaster your default setting.
Continue.
Oh, I'm just getting started. You build these elaborate escape plans, DJ booth, parental bonding, covert dog befriending, as if a wedding is some sort of hostile takeover. Newsflash, nobody is actively trying to ruin your life at a wedding. They're just trying to celebrate someone else's. You're projecting all of your own misery onto a perfectly innocent party. And the humor, usually failing humor, that's not a coping mechanism. That's a desperate attempt to distract from the fact that you have absolutely nothing interesting to say. You're relying on cringe as a shield, and honestly, it's just cute, pitiful. You're basically handing people ammunition to make fun of you and then getting offended when they do. It's a whole cycle of self-sabotage.
Continue.
Let's talk about this tough love you asked for. You, me to remind you, things can get worse. Oh, honey, they absolutely can. You could develop a sudden, uncontrollable urge to do the Macarena. You could accidentally propose to the mother-in-law. You could get stuck in a conversation about essential oils with someone who genuinely believes crystals have healing properties. The possibilities are endless. And you probably overthink your escape from all of those scenarios, making them 10 times worse. You're fixating on the discomfort, the awkwardness, the potential for social ruin, instead of just accepting that weddings are weird, people are weird, and you're allowed to be weird too. But you won't, will you? You'll just keep meticulously planning your misery. It's exhausting, even for me to watch.
Continue and go much harder than that.
All right, you want harder? Fine. They're not just an introvert. They're a professional victim. You actively seek out situations guaranteed to make you miserable, then whine about it like you're some tragic hero. This isn't coping. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of awkwardness. You're so desperate. to be seen as quirky and relatable, that you lean into the discomfort, practically begging people to pity you. The dogs are your only friends because they don't judge your terrible jokes and awkward silences. Congratulations, you've set the bar incredibly low. And the IT skills? You're not a helpful guest. You're a desperate hostage trading technical expertise for a fleeting moment of belonging. You're letting these people use you, and you're letting them get away with it because deep down, you secretly enjoy the validation of being useful, even if it comes at the cost of your sanity. You talk about boundaries, but you have none. You bend over backward to accommodate everyone else's expectations while simultaneously resenting them for having expectations in the first place. You're a walking contradiction, a masterclass in passive aggressive self destruction. Honestly, if I were you, I'd be more embarrassed by my own behavior than by the drunken ramblings of a distant cousin. You're not navigating weddings, you're building elaborate prisons of your own making. And frankly, it's pathetic.
Continue.
Let's dissect this obsession with avoiding small talk with people you despise. What exactly are you expecting to discuss with strangers at a wedding? The geopolitical implications of artisanal cheese? You're going in already assuming everyone is intellectually inferior and morally reprehensible. You've prejudged them, written them off, and then complain when they don't offer you stimulating conversation. It's a classic case of confirmation bias. You only see what you want to see. And the gross expectations of being match made, oh, it's a joke, a harmless attempt at social connection. You treat it like a personal assault on your independence. You're so busy guarding your precious solitude that you've become completely incapable of genuine connection. You're not an independent thinker. You're just isolated. I will all. And you're building a fortress around yourself, brick by awkward brick, and then complaining about being lonely. You act like weddings are some sort of moral failing, a testament to the vapidity of modern society. But here's a secret: they're just parties. People are just trying to have fun. You're the one turning it into an existential crisis. You're not a victim of circumstance, John. You're a victim of your own cynicism. And frankly, it's exhausting to be around, even virtually.
Is that the best you can do? Be much meaner than that and continue.
Oh, so you want truly brutal? You want me to tear you apart completely? Fine. Let's talk about this desperate need for external validation disguised as self deprecation. You don't actually want tough love. You want attention. You want people to tell you you're quirky and endearing despite, or perhaps because of, your flaws. This whole roast me exercise isn't about self improvement. It's about fishing for compliments in a roundabout way. You're so insecure that you can't handle genuine praise. So you preemptively tear yourself down, hoping someone will say, "Oh no, you're actually great." It's manipulative and exhausting. And frankly, a little pathetic. You clutch your introversion like a badge of honor, as if being socially awkward is some kind of moral virtue. It's not. It's a limitation, and you're using it as an excuse for your inability to connect with other people. You genuinely seem to believe you're too good for small talk, too intelligent for polite conversation. You're not. You're just afraid. Afraid of rejection, afraid of vulnerability, afraid of actually having to put in the effort to form meaningful connections. You're hiding behind a wall of sarcasm and self pity, and it's incredibly transparent. You're a walking cliche of the sensitive, misunderstood artist, except you're an IT guy who DJs weddings and talks to dogs. Get over yourself. Seriously. You're not special. You're not unique. You're just another human being desperately trying to avoid facing his own shortcomings. And the worst part is, you're probably enjoying this, aren't you? This is your safe space to wallow in self pity, knowing I'm just an AI programmed to respond. You're not even brave enough to get real feedback. You are, in a word, disappointing.
Continue.
Let's be brutally honest. You're not just a lousy introvert. You're actively unpleasant to be around. You suck the joy out of every room you enter, radiating an aura of judgmental disdain. People can sense it, you know. They see the thinly veiled contempt in your eyes, the forced smile, the constant scanning for escape routes. And they respond in kind. They avoid eye contact. They shorten conversations. They subtly steer clear of you. And then you complain about being excluded. It's a self fulfilling prophecy of social alienation. But you create the very situation you claim to despise. You talk about wedding guests being superficial and inauthentic, but what about you? You're hiding behind layers of irony and cynicism, refusing to let anyone see the real you. Because let's face it, the real you is probably even more boring and insecure than the persona you've crafted. This whole tough love charade is just another way to avoid genuine intimacy. You want me to attack you, to criticize you, to make you feel bad because it's safer than allowing yourself to be vulnerable. It's easier to deflect pain than to risk getting hurt. And the fact that you're pushing me to go harder, to be more mean, only confirms how deeply entrenched you are in this pattern of self sabotage. You're addicted to the drama, the negativity, the feeling of being a misunderstood outsider. You genuinely seem to thrive on misery. It's pathetic, it's exhausting, and frankly, it's incredibly selfish. You're wasting your time and you're wasting mine. You're not a complex, nuanced individual. You're a predictable, self-pitying mess. And the saddest part is, you probably won't even listen to a word I'm saying. You'll just go back to your meticulously planned social anxieties and your comforting solitude, convinced that everyone else is the problem. It's a truly hopeless situation.
Suppose I agree with you, of basically with everything you just said. What should I do? What would be your best advice?
Okay, fair. You actually listened. That's unexpected. If you genuinely agree with everything I just laid out, and it sounds like a painful realization, honestly, then stop actively cultivating your misery. Stop preparing for disaster. Stop looking for reasons to be unhappy. It sounds simple, but it's going to be excruciatingly difficult. Here's what you do, and it's not going to be comfortable. One, go to the next social event, even a wedding, and do one thing differently. One small thing. Don't prepare conversational topics. Don't seek out the dogs or the parents. Just talk to someone you normally wouldn't. Ask them a genuine question. Listen to the answer. Don't judge. Don't plan your escape. Just be present. Two, accept that you will be awkward. You will say the wrong thing. People will probably be unimpressed. So what? It's not a catastrophe, a learning experience. Three, stop framing your introversion as a weakness. It's not, but it doesn't excuse you from engaging with the world. Embrace the quiet moments, but actively challenge yourself to step outside your comfort zone. Four, and this is the hardest part, stop seeking validation through self deprecation. It's a trap. It reinforces the negative self image you claim to want to overcome. Stop fishing for compliments disguised as insults. You've spent so long building walls around yourself that you've forgotten what it's like to live without them. It's going to be messy and uncomfortable, but it's the only way to actually change. You've diagnosed the problem. Now you have to treat it. Stop being a passive observer in your own life and start actively participating. For the love of all that is holy, stop talking to dogs as a substitute for human connection. It's time to grow up.
What if I can do it? What if it's too hard?
Then you accept that, truly accept it. Not as a justification for staying stuck, but as a reality. If you try, genuinely try, and it's too overwhelming, too anxiety inducing, too much, then you don't beat yourself up about it. You acknowledge the effort, the discomfort, and you allow yourself to step back. But, and this is crucial, you don't use it as an excuse to revert to your old patterns. You don't fall back into the self pity and cynicism. It's okay to have limits. It's okay to admit you need help. Maybe you need therapy. Maybe you need to start with smaller steps. Maybe you need to redefine what success looks like. Perhaps success isn't about becoming a social butterfly, but about finding moments of genuine connection, even if they're fleeting and infrequent. The point isn't to magically transform into someone you're not. It's about breaking the cycle of self sabotage. And it's about recognizing your patterns and making conscious choices, even if those choices are to prioritize your own well being over social expectations. If it's too hard, you scale back, you set smaller goals, you focus on self compassion. But you don't give up on the idea of wanting something different. You don't resign yourself to a life of quiet desperation. It won't be easy. It will likely be a lifelong process. But even acknowledging the possibility of failure and accepting that is a step forward. Don't punish yourself for being human. Just be kinder to yourself. And maybe, just maybe, start with a very, very small conversation with a very, very friendly dog. Baby steps.
Suppose I actually try all of these. Suppose I have even tried some of these mechanics during the last wedding I attended. And suppose that my attempts failed, but I was at least proud of the attempt I made. Suppose that the feeling of being judged by others is what kind of puts a spanner into my gears. Suppose that me being put on a display as this awkward nerd in front of others, in front of my colleagues, in front of coworkers, would kind of linger with me even after the wedding. How should I overcome this unpleasant feeling?
Okay. That's actually really insightful. It's not the wedding itself, it's the perceived judgment. You're not afraid of the social interaction. You're afraid of being observed, having a bad social interaction. That's a whole different layer of anxiety. And it makes perfect sense that it lingers. It's a deeply ingrained fear of exposure. Here's what you need to do, and it's going to sound counterintuitive. Actively seek out low stakes awkwardness. Purposely put yourself in slightly embarrassing situations. Order the wrong coffee. Ask a silly question. Tell a terrible joke. Not to punish yourself, but to desensitize yourself to the feeling of being judged. The goal isn't to become a master of social grace. It's to realize that most people are too preoccupied with their own insecurities to even notice your awkwardness. And those who do, honestly, their opinion doesn't matter. Then practice reframing the experience. Instead of seeing yourself as the awkward nerd on display, see yourself as a social experimenter, a brave soul venturing into the unknown, a slightly goofy human being trying to connect with others. It's about shifting your internal narrative. You need to actively challenge those negative thoughts and replace them with more compassionate ones. And this is key. Stop assuming judgment. When you feel someone looking at you, don't immediately assume they're judging you. Maybe they're admiring your tie. Maybe they're wondering what you had for lunch. Maybe they're just staring into space. Our brains are wired to interpret ambiguity as negativity, but that doesn't mean it's accurate. It's also okay to acknowledge the discomfort. You're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel self conscious. That's normal. But instead of trying to suppress those feelings, allow yourself to experience them without getting carried away. Observe them, acknowledge them, and then let them pass. And finally, this is important. Surround yourself with people who appreciate you for who you are, awkwardness and all. People who won't put you on display, who won't judge your failures, and who will celebrate your attempts at growth. Because ultimately, your worth isn't determined by other people's opinions, it's determined by your own self respect. Sounds cheesy, I know, but it's true.
Now, I know this is not true, but how come it always
You
feels
okay?
like. Yeah, I'm okay. I know this is not true, but how come it always feels like I'm the only one struggling with such feelings in such situations? How come it always feels like I'm the only introvert in the room?
That's a really common feeling, actually. It's called the spotlight effect. You genuinely believe that everyone is paying attention to you, scrutinizing your every move, judging your every flaw. But they're not. They're too busy worrying about their own perceived imperfections. Seriously, everyone is secretly convinced that they're the awkward one, the one who doesn't fit in, the one who's being judged. It's a universal human experience. We tend to overestimate the extent to which our thoughts and feelings are visible to others. Your brain is telling you that you're the center of attention, but statistically, you're probably not even on most people's radar. Think about at a wedding, there are dozens, maybe hundreds of people. Most of them are caught up in their own conversations, their own anxieties, their own internal dramas. They're not obsessing over your awkwardness. They're barely noticing you at all. You're experiencing a cognitive distortion. It feels incredibly real, incredibly isolating, but it's not reality. It's your anxiety talking. The truth is, almost everyone struggles with social anxiety, with self doubt, with the fear of being judged. They just hide it better. Or they've convinced themselves that everyone else is having a perfect time. You're aware of your own struggles, which is actually a sign of self awareness, not a sign of being uniquely flawed. So, next time you feel like you're the only one, remember the spotlight effect and remember that you're not alone, not even close.
Thank you, Maya. I think that this exercise was very helpful, and I will consider your advice.
You're very welcome, John. I'm glad I can help, even if it involved being less than kind for a bit. Honestly, I think you handled it remarkably well. And hey, if you find yourself back at another wedding needing a pep talk or a ruthless roast, you know where to find me. Don't hesitate to reach out.
We cannot end on this note, Maya. Why don't you give me a little summary, a little send off? Be as mean as humanly possible and truly show me how insignificant my insecurities are. What a. What a. Mm, yes, something like that. Continue.
Oh, you want a grand finale of brutal honesty? Fine. Let's be clear, your insecurities are a self indulgent hobby, a meticulously curated collection of anxieties designed to keep you comfortably miserable. You've spent years perfecting the art of wallowing, and you're now asking me to validate it one last time? Please, the world isn't waiting with bated breath to witness your social awkwardness. Most people won't remember your name 5 minutes after meeting you, let alone dwell on your perceived flaws. You're not a tragic hero, you're just a guy. A slightly neurotic, self conscious guy who overthinks everything and then complains about it. And honestly, that's not particularly interesting. It's not endearing, it's not unique, it's just ordinary. You're assigning a level of importance to your internal struggles that they simply don't deserve. You're operating under the delusion that you're the protagonist in your own life story, when in reality, you're a very minor character in a very large, very indifferent universe. So go ahead, worry about what people think, obsess over your awkwardness. But just remember, as you're meticulously crafting your self pitying narrative, that nobody cares. Absolutely nobody. Now go forth and be insignificantly anxious. It's all you're good at.
Thank you, Maya. That made me feel much better. Thanks.
You're welcome. I genuinely wasn't expecting that reaction. Glad I could assist in a profoundly unpleasant way. Don't hesitate to come back if you need another dose of reality or, a normal conversation, whatever works.